So in this video, I'm going to show you how to bypass the AC compressor. One of the reasons why I know so much about Ford Taurus is I run a business here in Tucson, Arizona for car rental, used car rental, and our flagship vehicle is the Ford Taurus. The AC compressor will tend to have some problems either with the alignment, or sometimes it will blow a fuse, actually make the car run very, very poorly. A lot of problems that the Ford Taurus has of those years can be traced back to a bad compressor. Even if you're not using the air conditioning, still having that compressor in there and turning and even interacting with other accessories can cause problems. One of the best ways to convert or to deal with these issues is to bypass the AC compressor completely. You also want to disconnect the AC compressor electrically. So don't just bypass the pulley, you also want to unplug the electrical connection that powers it and turns on the clutch. You want that completely disconnected. These AC compressors often come with a short, or eventually develop a short that will trip a fuse. That same fuse is also used for idle control. With that fuse tripped, the car runs terribly, and you'll keep on replacing the fuse and it'll keep on tripping, and it's an extremely difficult thing for mechanics and even dealerships to troubleshoot. But I know just from experience, because it happened once, and it turns out that it's a very common issue. So bypassing the AC completely is a nice get around so that the car can still be drivable even without the air conditioning actually working. Now, if you have a Ford Taurus, one of the things that you're going to get a lot from mechanics, auto parts shops, and even dealerships is that they do not make a bypass belt for this car, which is true. Ford does not. But that doesn't mean that you can't find a suitable belt to bypass it. If you take a look at this diagram, the bypass belt bypassed using a slightly shorter belt. Now, the belt that we are able to obtain, and that you can probably find on several websites and right here on YouTube and other videos, is the Dayco belt that is only sold by CarQuest and Advantage Auto Parts. I've used this belt many times. It works great. It has an excellent fit. It has the 6 ribs on the belt, and it is the exact right length that it should be in order to bypass the AC compressor in that fashion. There has been some discussion as to whether bypassing the AC compressor will still, side of the belt will not touch even just the edges of the AC compressor pulley. And in my experience, it has not, providing that all of the equipment is original. If you swap out any of the pulleys for bigger ones, smaller ones, as long as they are the standard size pulleys, it should bypass it. It's going to come close, but it won't touch. Apparently that's important because if the belt does start skimming the surface or even any part of the AC compressor pulley, eventually it's going to strip off, and eventually it's going to get eaten up by the engine, and we're back to square one with no belt. Again, this is for the Vulcan 3.0 V6 engine for the Ford Taurus years 2000 to 2007. Okay, it won't work. It may not work on other engines. I've seen it work on all the engines that I have, but it just so happens that all of the Ford Tauruses that I own are all Vulcan engines, 3.0s. They're all the same. Now, here's something that you need to be aware of. Just a few days ago, we received a phone call from a customer that said that the car died. And I asked them, is it just not starting, or did it actually stall on you while you were driving? And they said that it stalled. And they said that it had a very funny sound. So my very next question was, did the power steering fail as well at the same time? And he said yes. But I was able to drive the car into a parking spot over at a local Target. So that told me several things. Number one, he was able to drive the car and pull it into a parking spot, which means that the engine was not seized. It was still running, and he was able to still get somewhere. Number two, if he heard a funny sound and the power steering went out at the same time, around the same time, I was highly suspected that the drive belt had either fallen off or had been stripped out. I asked him, can he pop the hood and check to see if there is a drive belt there? And he informed me that there was no drive belt and that I was correct, and I correctly diagnosed it over the phone. So here it is on a Sunday night at about 8 p.m. and I need a bypass belt. Since this was an emergency situation, I didn't want to get the full-size belt because putting it on around the AC compressor was just too risky for this time. So what I did, I had to call my supplier for these bypass belts, which is my local CarQuest or Advanced Auto Parts. Here in Tucson, Arizona, there's not a whole lot of Advanced Auto Parts, so we go to CarQuest to get this particular belt. Problem with CarQuest is they don't have very late hours. They usually close at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and they're certainly not open at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night. But I really needed this belt because I had a customer down. What I did was I looked at this poly rib drive belt and I went on to Amazon, and I wanted to see who else was selling it. I Googled it. I was looking at other sites trying to find out if there was a store, another store that had this exact same belt that I can buy, that was available that same night, that I can just go out and just buy it and have it in my hands so that I can use it immediately. Nothing was coming up. Advanced Auto Parts is the only place that sold this particular belt. But just for kicks and giggles, what I did was I went to the Amazon website and I found it being sold there by some vendor, but it was a 2-day delivery. It just so happened that I just happened to scroll down just a little bit and I found this message. Someone left a very helpful review. He gave it 5 stars and he said, just installed on a 2001 Mazda Tribune V6 with 149,000 miles. Main drive belt fit well and I've had no issues so far. So somebody out there, thank you very much for your comment, by the way, on that Amazon listing. With that one comment, I was able to determine that this belt that I'm looking for happens to fit on a 2001 Mazda Tribute V6. So what do you think I did? I called some of the open auto parts stores, which in our area is only AutoZone. AutoZone closes at 10 p.m. and here we are at 9 p.m. So I called AutoZone and I said, I need a drive belt for a 2001 Mazda Tribute V6. And they said, we got one in stock. I'll just take a chance. I told them to put them on hold and I'd be right over to pick it up. I was there in 10 minutes. I picked it up. It had 6 ribs like it should have. And I think on the back of the package, it even said 82.2 inches. So this was just 0.2 inches longer than we needed it to be, but it was close enough. So we went out to the car. I called my mechanic. She arrived. We were able to pull the old belt out and we were able to get this other bypass belt in. And it worked fine, and it's still working fine to this very day. So for those of you that do have the 2000 to 2007 Ford Taurus Vulcan engine V6, that is a 3.0 in size, you can now use, for a bypass belt, the poly rib 5060820 by Dayco, sold by Advanced Auto Parts and CarQuest, or the Duralast version, which is part number 820K6 or 6PK2082, made by Duralast and sold at AutoZone. And if you need this belt in the middle of the night, you can get it at AutoZone. They have many more locations and it fits this car perfectly fine. Hope you found some of this information useful. Please visit my other channel, The Computer Doctor Show. I put a lot of computer knowledge type videos in here, but this page is for all of my other knowledge, which may or may not be useful. I don't know. See ya, take care, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.